Good evening and welcome to another exciting of Triple Tap Tuesday. Can you believe, guys, we are at episode number 52, which means we've been going for 1 year. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome each and every one of you this evening, and I'd like to welcome this evening, as always, the lovely Kent. And for the very first time, we have Gary Pennington with us. And now, some of you probably don't know who Gary is, but we will introduce Gary. He is one of our TAP Satellite admins, but he is also one of the newest members of our TAP executive team. So, Gary, a big welcome to you. This is your very first Triple Tap, and you are stepping in for Lance this evening, who is unable to be with us. So, we say a big shout out to Lance. We hope you're doing well. And yeah, as always, we take this opportunity to have a little bit of a chit chat and find out what kind of a week you guys have had, because we generally only get to speak once a week. So Gary, we'll start with you being the new guy. How has your week been, very briefly?
I've had a good time this week, and just want to apologise that I can't step into the casual demeanour that Lance exhibits on Triple Tap, but I'm afraid I'll have to learn that over a period of weeks. But I've been running the phones hot and trying to spread the word and seek more feedback and get some more information about how we can progress where we're going and what we're doing. And in amongst all that, I've been trying to get down the beach for 2 or 3 swims every day while the weather's been good. You know, it's 22-degree water and 24-degree in the sunshine. So, yeah.
Lucky you, Gary.
Rub it in.
I've noticed a few jumpers and coats, so I think I've had to put my cardigan on today just to blend in.
I don't know, Gary. Like Kent and I are both in places where it is absolutely freezing cold, and you know, not fair. So bring on the sunshine. So yes, you have been working very hard with these sovereign nations, and I'm sort of astounded at how much you've been doing in the time that you've joined us, and it's a credit to you. So well done, and keep going. Kent, how has your week been, very briefly?
The week has been super hectic, very rewarding. It has required a couple of 400-kilometre drives from me to get around the place and get documentation urgently to the right people to sign. It's fantastic to see the Githabul-Ngurakbul Yulkum Nation punching ahead and gaining credibility wherever it goes. It's fantastic that it's so legal and lawful, internationally accepted, and I'm just absolutely pumped. And I won't go on about that any further, but Gary, I do have to talk with you and bring you up to speed after Triple Tap tonight, so I'll give you a call directly.
Excellent, guys. Well, we've got another exciting episode tonight, and it is someone who we have interviewed before, and it is someone that you all know, and I'm about to introduce her. She's got a very interesting story to share with us tonight. So let me get underway and introduce our speaker for this evening. Kim Robertson has been working with TAP for quite some time now, both as an admin for TAP Mackay and as a TAP executive. Kim has been heavily involved in the community and was instrumental in the creation of the Birigubba Sovereign Nation, which formed in March of this year. She is part of the Unacceptable Content for Children Action Group, which we recently set up, and she is passionate about seeing this tyranny come to an end for everyone. Here, aren't we all? Kim returns to us tonight and sits in the chair to be interviewed herself. We're following up with her as she was stood down from the Queensland Police Service in October of last year, where she worked as a communications operator. Last Friday, that finally came to an end. Kim was terminated for allegedly not following the unlawful directive of taking the COVID injection. She is now ready to tell her story and expose how the Queensland Police Service treated her and others for exercising bodily autonomy. Remember, people, There are three main trespasses that we are protected by, and that is trespass to person, trespass to property, and trespass to privilege. And we definitely need to learn them. I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but some of us may have had a run-in with the police at some stage in our lifetime. And it's always been pretty tough, but I wonder what it's like for someone who actually works in the police services in any capacity and then gets treated the way that Kim has been treated. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome from Tap Mackay, the Birigubba Sovereign Nation, and all the other many hats that this amazing lady wears, my fellow Tap colleague and friend, Kim Robertson, to the call. So, Kim, if you're there, turn on your camera, love, and everybody show us some love in the chat with your emojis or your comments, please. And, let's get this interview underway. Firstly, Kim, how are you?
Thanks so much, James, and thanks for that lovely introduction. That's really nice. I'm good. I'm really good. Now that things have settled down a little bit, and the finality of it is over and the weight has been lifted off the shoulders. So even though you know that it's coming, it takes a little bit of processing time. So, but yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
What's it like, Kim, sitting in limbo all that time, like not being able to, like, I guess, go to work, but being in limbo, still being employed by them, being in limbo, and wondering, well, when is something going to happen? Because you've been in limbo for a little while, and I know you've been busy in that time with the sovereign nation stuff, but how's it affected you personally? What's it taken a toll on you, or how's it affected you?
So it's actually since this, October of 2021 that we were sort of stood down. So it's coming up to, it's over 2.5 years now that we've been stood down. It's been a roller coaster, I have to say. The constant barrage of reiteration that you don't have any human rights, that you don't have, you're not allowed to have your own thoughts, your own conscience, your own beliefs, your own this, your own that, everything. They tell you everything that you do, you have to ask permission for, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, it's been instrumental in keeping busy and focused on how to find ways to combat the tyranny that we are living under. And that's really played a major part in making sure that my thought processes has been okay. So away from what the QPS are doing and have done, and focusing that energy into something positive. But even still, you don't realize the weight that you are carrying on your shoulders as you are going through this until the final end of it, until it becomes over. And I think for those of you who have seen and were there on Saturday, I did get quite emotional in that. And a lot of that was just to do because it was such a release in so many ways of a burden that you don't really even realize you're carrying. But yeah, it's been a roller coaster, I have to say.
Kent, I just want to throw to you, because you also used to work in the police force, and I know you've been out of it a little while. Was the behaviour of what you see today with how the police are treating people anything like it when you worked in the police force?
Look, Ainsley, that's a fantastic question, and I want to highlight this. The commissioned officers that I worked with, not the ones right at the top, the ones right at the top, I witnessed them on many, many occasions attempt to cover serious corruption. And as I've said before, and as you know, I assisted in the removal of 2 police officers from the Queensland police force because of their total corruption, their criminality. And to watch very senior officers right up to directly, the next one step down from the commissioner. So, assistant, not assistant commissioners, deputy commissioners, to have firsthand experience of them covering corruption, which is in and of itself a corrupt act. You know that the commissioner knows about that because they don't do anything in solitude. They sit and talk about that. So to know that was still there back then, but let's look at the other commissioned officers and the other officers that I served with at that point in time. I've had many conversations with the fellows that I worked with at that time, and they've all said there is no way that we would have stood for what is going on here. And since I left, the deliberate cultural change that has been attempted and put into place, the organizational cultural change inside the QPS, has brought about a natural weeding out of officers who have very high levels of integrity, and has sustained those officers who are prepared to keep their job at all costs and will do whatever it is suggested they should do so they can get a promotion or just stay in the job. Now, that's not all of them. There will be many officers who still have integrity and have simply been confused. But the cultural and organizational change has been put in place. And almost, dare I say it, as if they were preparing for this point in time.
Kim, in your time since you were asked to stop working, you obviously, I don't know how long you've been in the QPS, but did you notice a big change in the attitude from the people that you worked with towards you because you decided not to take the bioweapon into your body?
Yeah, I did. A lot were confused, and obviously the government would never hurt us. There's many officers, many people that I worked with. And just to clarify too, I was actually a communications officer in there. So I wasn't a sworn officer. I was in the communications department doing 000 and dispatch. So all of us, I don't know of one person who went through this, didn't receive pushback from their colleagues or the hierarchy at some point or another. I guess I was one of the luckier ones where I didn't face too harsher pushback from my colleagues, although there was some. But I do know that some officers were made to go in through a different door to get to their desk. I do know that some officers were made to sit in a room fully suited up with a face mask and a shield over them, with no contact of any other officers in their department. I do know that others were bullied and ridiculed by their colleagues and their management right throughout this whole process. So yes, there is, and there is definitely a cultural change. And all you need to do is have a look at what the Commissioner of Police, is able to get away with at the moment.
Yep.
She has been before the court so many times this year alone, and yet nothing is done. There was a petition done to get her out of that job, and nothing happened. So we know that she is backed 100% by the Labor government who's currently sitting in that seat. And no matter what she does, she will not be removed, because everything in their mind is okay. Everything is going to plan, their plan, and it doesn't matter whether it's morally or ethically okay.
When you were dumped on Friday, Kim, was it done over the phone? Was it done via a letter? Were you called in to have a discussion, or what was it like for you?
No. So when these letters get delivered, when you receive these letters, they actually get hand delivered by generally an inspector and your OIC. They have two that normally come around. My OIC was currently in Brisbane at the time, so it was then an inspector and another officer that attended my home to deliver this. So as a part of this whole process, I was not allowed, none of us are allowed within 100 metres of a police station except to report a crime. So we couldn't have any interaction whatsoever with any of our colleagues, nor could we go anywhere near a station. So they really treated us like we were a high-level criminal with boundaries of not to approach. It's almost like a domestic violence order.
What's the purpose of that, Kim? What's the purpose of that? If you've not committed a crime, is it to intimidate you or to
100%.
Essentially, yes.
100%? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it is to intimidate, isn't it, Kim?
Absolutely. 100%. They will tell you that because you stood down for disobeying a direction, that you are not allowed to interact with your colleagues. They'll be thinking that you'll talk to them and might garner some support or something. But at the end of the day, it is blatant intimidation, along with all of the other things that they have done. Yeah.
You'll be
There's
pleased
no
to know.
safety reason for that. There's no safety reason. There's no common sense reason. There's no danger. Kim was hired by the QPS specifically because of her skill set and her integrity. And just because she stood up to him and said, listen, that drug that you want me to take is untested, then they say, okay, well, you're not allowed near a police station. It is purely for intimidation and to disrupt as much as they possibly can any attempt she might make to get justice against them.
And as I think Kim and I have spoken about this, you cannot be sacked for disobeying an unlawful directive. Sorry, Gary, you were about to ask a question.
Change that you were talking about, Kent. That's not just in the QPS. That's across the whole of the institutions, the whole of the public service. All public service have instituted that process of change where people who are efficient and diligent and want to do the job aren't welcome anymore, and they'll do whatever it takes to get you out. And, I can quote an example of a young lady I know that refused to take that bioweapon and work for an institution in Queensland, was allowed to do some work from home, but had to go to the office on certain days, wasn't allowed to sit in the general office where other people were with their 1.5 and 4 square metres and all this rubbish. This young person was escorted down the hallway with a computer to a little wooden desk in what was essentially a broom cupboard with no natural lighting, and could spend the days at work in the cupboard. Now, humiliation, how much more can you get? And that doesn't make it right for anyone. But I'm just saying it's an institutional application of intimidation and making you feel terrible. And, the people that are around that worker, that particular worker, that some of us know, that it was nothing but pure humiliation. And Kim, you would have experienced all of that. And, is there other people that you talk to from the QPS that have had the same experience as you?
Oh, many. They underrated the numbers a lot when they said that there was only X amount that had been stood down. Currently, still, there's probably about 200. So in this position, still not having been terminated from their positions, both sworn and unsworn officers. So there is many. So I just want to go through a little bit of a few of the things, if it's okay, that has happened. I see there's a question in here: is QPS still mandating the jab? No. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. And it's important to stay there to answer that now, because no, they are not. That has all been dropped, and yet still they are continuing on for the terminations. So my termination was for disobeying a direction from the commissioner, a directive that, as you said earlier, Ames, was unlawful. So when this all started, one of the first things that happened was that they tried to make the unvaccinated wear a mask. So I know for me, when that occurred, I went straight to my OIC and said, this is not okay. You make me do this, I will have you out for bullying. What you are asking me to do is put a gold star on my arm. This is going back to Nazi Germany and what they had done over there. So this is not okay, and I'm not going to do this. I don't care what the consequences are, but I'm not doing it. You can't do this. So to her credit, she did follow it up, and that did get changed at that point in time. So when these directions came out, there was a little bit of time where we were just waiting to find out what was happening, I guess. And we took it to the QIRC court in Brisbane, A whole group of us did that. And what was evident right from the very start of that court case was that QPS and the QPUE, so that the QPS union, Queensland Police Union, were 100% in bed with the judges of the QARC court. That was evident within the first 5 minutes. They allowed our barrister to go on and show many acts where this was unlawful. The judges actually came out and did the arguments for the QPS and the Queensland Police Union on their behalf. I think they spoke for about 5 minutes each, and then the job was done. It was leaked to the ABC prior to us even being told of what the outcome is, even though that we knew what it was. So right from the start, we could see the corruption. So in the meantime, we had received this letter, and I'm going to read this because it's really important, and it's really important for everybody to comprehend the level that they had gone to, and the degradation that they had placed on all of us going through. We know that QPS is not the only ones going through this, nor are they the only ones still going through this. So this is the part on human rights, and it says, I consider that my decision to suspend you without remuneration may limit your right of equal access to the public service and your right to property, which may include remuneration. Because my decision enforces the direction, it also limits human rights related to autonomy and bodily integrity, including the right not to receive medical treatment without consent. So I had to, if I got sick for anything at all, they wanted me to go to them and ask them if it was okay if I went to see a doctor. And the right to privacy. So anything about me, I do not have the right for privacy. We did not. Because your reason for allegedly failing to comply with the direction may be based on a conscientious belief, my decision may also limit your right to equality and non-discrimination, freedom of thought, conscience, and belief. So limit your right to equality and non-discrimination. So what they're saying there is that because I exercise bodily autonomy, anybody has the right to discriminate against me in any way they want, Now, discrimination, as we know, has been one at the forefront of so many things over the years, and yet they strip that away from you in a nanosecond. No freedom to think my own thoughts, no freedom to have my own conscience, no freedom to have my own belief. And this is everybody who has received, who went through the same process, received the same letter, received the same restrictions on their human rights. So when you have a look at that sentence there, so this was right at the beginning, they are telling you, we own you, we control you 100%, and you will do nothing to step outside the bounds of that.
Now, Kim, when you first got that, you said that was at the beginning. How did that make you feel? Like getting that letter, like, oh, what did you immediately think, and what did you immediately do when you got that letter?
I was furious. So it just happened to come a few days before I was put in front of two officers who were working, seconded to the Ethical Standards Commission, who we had to go through an interview with. They had arrived in Mackay. My boss had texted me and said, you'll need to come to the station and you'll have to wear a mask. So my immediate reply was, I don't think so. You will have to make other arrangements. So she did. I got this letter the day before, and we were due to catch up and for a chat on that very day that she texted that to me. So I met up with her. I walked into this coffee shop. She could see I was fuming. I was so angry. Got a coffee, sat down at the table. I threw it on the table. and I said to her, what the hell is this? You tell me what the hell this is about. Who do you think, who do these people think they are? I went on, and probably my language was a little bit harsher than that, but that's okay. So she was like, I don't know anything about it. I said, who is this? Who is this Virginia Nelson, acting assistant commissioner? Who does she think she is? She went on to say, well, she was quite worried because I was very angry when my words and my actions, I suppose. And she's like, I don't know. I don't know anything about it. You know that I took it because of my health, and I really needed to have it because of my health problems, etc., etc. I said, that's right. You took it because you thought that was the best thing to do for you. That means that you got to choose. You chose. We don't get to have that choice. And I don't know who these people think they are that can actually even put this in writing to try and restrict human rights as they have stated here. So I was angry, Ains. I was angry.
No doubt you got the attention of the whole coffee shop.
I just think it's fantastic, Kim, that that letter came to you from Ethical Standards Command, as if the QPS has ethical standards. Seriously, as if they have ethical standards. It's that letter that you got, and as I understand it, as you read it out just then, says, we know we're committing terrible crimes against you, but we're going to do it to you anyway. See if you can stop us. That's what they're saying.
That is what they're saying. It is. And there's many more clauses in here which talk about what that actually means. And they say here, however, I consider these limits on human rights are reasonable and justified by the need to ensure compliance with direction as follows. And it lists a whole lot of points here. So every single time we got a new letter or a request for a show cause or whatever the case may be, they would reiterate these human rights limitations. So it was a continuous process of, we are going to kick you. We are going to kick you down, and we are going to keep you down for as long as we possibly can. Every time you think that you are going to get on top of yourself and how you're feeling about this, we're going to kick you in the guts again. And that's their whole process. So this has gone on for 2.5 years, intermittent periods right throughout that 2.5 years, where they would leave it for a little period of time, come back, do it again, do it again, do it again. So just recently, in the lead up to my termination, I had received a letter, and this one was actually from the Executive Director of Public Service Employment Practice. So not the QPS, Executive Director, Public Sector Employment Practice. So this case, all the AO cases, the admin cases, would have gone to the public service, this person. So he sends a letter, and in this 12-month review of suspension, he again says here, in conducting this review, I have given proper consideration to human rights, including the right to freedom of movement under section, the right to peaceful assembly and freedom of association, the right to taking part in public life, and the right to privacy and reputation. In accordance with the Human Rights Act 2019, I am satisfied that any limitations to the human rights of the employee are justified, and that no alternatives exist which would lessen the limitations on the employee's human rights. So we are now at a period where the mandates have been dropped by most companies, including the QPS. We are now at a period where so many people have just gone back to normal. And
So
we
Kim,
receive, sorry.
I just want to ask you then, if you say that the mandates have been dropped and you've been waiting, why have they not allowed you to go back to work? Why can't you just go back to work?
Because I disobeyed a direction. That's why.
An unlawful directive.
An unlawful direction. Now, I think right now is a really good time to emphasize too that there are many other officers which have done far worse things, far worse things. So I'm going to give you an example of one because I find this absolutely horrific.
Mm-hmm.
I know of an officer who was sitting in his car and obviously accidentally hit his body worn camera. And he started talking to himself about what his sexual fantasies were that he would do to a minor, a young child. Went back
How
to
old
work.
was this? How old was the young child?
I'm not sure exactly. I'm sure 6 is ringing a bell, but don't quote me on that. Don't quote me. Went back to work. Docked his body worn.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say, so it could be any age. If we're not 100% sure, we have to say any age. Yeah.
Yes, but I know it was definitely a minor.
Right.
Why would he put his body cam on and talk to himself? Was he not on a phone call with somebody?
No, he wasn't on a phone call with somebody, and he must have hit his button. I don't know what the circumstances are around that, how he managed to get that in.
So carry on.
So
what did you do?
Went back to work, docked it into the station, and obviously then that came to the attention of his supervisor or whoever it came to the attention of. So he was put under investigation. No.
Why not?
No. Because he was put into then a desk job, under investigation, still paid.
So Kim,
when you
let me get just to backtrack, because I think we just want to highlight the severity of what you just said to our listeners. You understand that a man who starts talking about all the horrible things that he wants to do to a minor who's a police officer gets found out, and all he gets is stood down to a desk job while he's being investigated.
Yep.
All you do is decide for yourself that your body is more important and that you don't want to have a bioweapon, an untested bioweapon in your arm, and you get sacked for not obeying an unlawful directive.
Yes.
See how screwed up our system is?
How does that even compute? How does it even compute? In my mind, I just don't have any words for that. I just don't have any words.
I just want to hear from Gary or Kent. So we'll come across to you guys. Like, this just baffles me, right? Because I don't have a very high opinion of cops in the first place. I've had my own experiences, so I don't have a very high liking of them anyway. But this baffles me of what I've just heard come out of Kim's mouth tonight. Gary, what's your thought on this?
The only way that could compute, to the way I think, is that he may have accidentally hit that button, or he may have believed he was talking to someone else, or that's his usual chat. That's how he normally talks in and amongst a group of people that are already doing the same sort of talk. And whether that's in the service or out of the service, obviously in the service. So there's probably a whole network there that are used to talking that way, and they don't see it unusual. And this was just one case where, oops, something slipped up. Oh, gee, I shouldn't have done that, but too late, you did it. But we're not going to punish you anyway. Just sit over in the corner for a couple of weeks and you can go back to work. That's the way I see it.
But he's a copper. Don't you think he should have been sacked?
Well,
okay, Kent, you're an ex-copper, Kent. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think my thoughts are very similar to Gary's. There's no question he should have been sacked and sacked immediately. But the simple fact is, well, look, he should have been fired after a proper investigation and due process took place. There's no two ways about that. But I think what Gary is pointing out, and I absolutely concur with him, is the high likelihood that that's the type of groupthink that is going on. that there's a sickness in our service these days. There never used to be. Not amongst the general rank and file. And Kim, I assume this was among the general rank and file? Right, okay. So I'm getting a nod from Kim. That
Sorry,
definitely
yes.
that was among the general rank and file. So now we always knew, those of us inside the QPS always knew that there was a strong secret handshakers club. And when John Howard closed up the undercover New South Wales police investigation that had photographic footage and surveillance of a couple of past prime ministers, high-ranking media personnel, and high-ranking judges visiting and using the services of an underage boyhood brothel in King's Cross in Sydney. When John Howard sealed that investigation and stopped the New South Wales police from proceeding, and that was at the same time as the Wood inquiry, the Wood report, which was supposed to be a royal inquiry into pedophilia in high-ranking places in government departments. When he did that, and no police anywhere in Australia who were of commissioned rank stood up and said, this is wrong. There was no complaint in the media, no nothing. That, for me, became proof positive that the secret handshakers club were bent, utterly bent, and that they were heavily involved at the higher ranks with pedophilia. What's a really good indicator that that's the case? Well, can a pedophile's address be released in the media? No. Can a pedophile's address be released in anywhere? No. We have tens of thousands of pedophiles up and down the east coast of Australia, possibly even approaching well and truly a couple of 100,000, and no one is allowed to know their address, right? No one's allowed to know, okay, I've got 10 pedophiles in my neighborhood. I really need to look after my kids. So with that level of protection, and they use discrimination for that, right? So we can't possibly discriminate against a pedophile.
Yeah.
And that's what Kim is talking about here. We can't possibly discriminate against a pedophile. This guy proved he's the pedophile on camera, on police record. So we'll put him on a desk. We can't possibly discriminate against him. But Kim, you and thousands of employees don't want to put a completely untested drug, which, by the way, we all know is now proven to be absolutely toxic for the human body. Tens of thousands of doctors across the world take our side with this. Leading scientists take our side with this. We know it's bullshit. We know that the COVID vax was absolutely toxic for human beings. It's dangerous. It's killed children, killed babies, right?
I want to flip back to Kim now. Because we want to find out the rest of her story. Kim, we also have a question here. How can the Child Protection Unit hold their heads up when a fellow officer is allowed to get away with this?
Okay. So there's a couple of things here, and this is really important to stress. And not everyone in the QPS is bad.
No.
We know that. There are a lot of good officers in there, and in no way do I want to bring harm to those good officers at all, and to harm to anyone actually. But there are a lot of good people in the service. What is toxic is those at the top. We don't know what child protection officers did with that information, so we can't really comment on whether they did anything or they didn't do anything. We simply don't know. You would hope that people would come together and stand up against that sort of thing. But I can tell you, if they do, then there is a likelihood that they would get kicked back down quite quickly as well.
Kim, what's next for you? Like what happens now? This has only just happened to you in the last week, hasn't it?
Yes. So this happened on Friday. There's still a couple of other things that if I can just go through to reiterate a number of things so people know.
Yeah.
And I'll just go back to that Executive Director of the Public Service Employment Practice. His name is David Reid. For anybody who wants to know, David Reid is his name. So this comes at a time when the mandates have been dropped and people have gone back to normal lives. So he now is saying and reiterating that not only were those rights valid back then, or that restriction on my human rights then, but he specifically reiterates the fact that I have no right still to peaceful assembly, no right to privacy and reputation, and no right to taking a part in a public life. So he's just really highlighted a few more aspects of this at a period of time when everything seems to have gone away. So a week later, we got a notification saying, that the investigation is on hold at the moment due to a court case where an officer had actually won against the QPS due to a minor technicality. It was going to be on hold until November. So the following week, I get another letter saying, oh, no, we're actually going to commence the investigation again. And a few days later, that was when I was terminated. So in that termination letter, they reiterate all of those things again. Again, they acknowledged my human rights. They were justified in taking my human rights away. And still, even though I don't work for the service anymore, I get this clause. As previously advised, service documents and matters which are subject of this disciplinary process are to remain confidential. You are not permitted to disclose the same to any person apart from your union, legal representative or support person. I've got a lot of support people out there, by the way, and thank you all for that.
I support you, Kim.
Legal and otherwise too, Kim.
Exactly. I've got a whole couple of thousand at the moment. So this.
Kim, I got a question for you. Oh, go on. Were you still going?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate here that the service has just terminated my employment, and yet in their mind, they still think that they can control me. They still think that they can say to me, you're not allowed to say anything. You're not allowed to speak out about this. So clearly this is my response to that. Here I am.
100%.
Messed with the wrong woman, didn't they, Kim?
They did.
Go ahead, Gary.
In a lot of professions that involve having a badge, I've found over the years that the badge is very important and becomes more important than the actual role of the task, and the badge dominates a person's persona rather than I will go out and do my job in the community with care and compassion and a duty of care. Have you noticed that the people who are vilifying you are badge people rather than the ones who actually want to show and help the community?
So yes. So when you enter the police force, and I don't know how long you might be able to answer this question, but I believe that the entry exam that they require you to go through currently is a little bit on the narcissistic side. Well, not the exam itself, but it determines what kind of personality that you have.
Personality testing has been part of police forces right across Australia for the last 40 years. They test for a particular profile.
They do.
What is that profile, Ken? What more, not in very short detail, is it more on the bullying side, not compassionate side?
Well, it's changed. Okay, so when I was going through, they were looking for people who were against corruption, who were well educated, and who were free thinkers, who could adapt to any circumstance given to them and apply the law. That's what they were looking for. And so the personality profile reflected that. These days, the personality profile is looking for people who are yes people. And look, the indications I'm getting from people who work inside personnel who are responsible for giving those exams out and collating those exams and What they're saying is, oh, we don't even care about their personality profile these days. We just need to get someone in there because no one wants to come in. So that seriously, so if you're a grade 10 graduate and you're 35, they will take you right now, today. Doesn't matter what your weight is, and if you are, it just doesn't matter, right? They'll take you. As long as you'll say yes, they'll take you.
Crazy, isn't it?
I
All
just
right,
want,
back
I just
to you,
want to
Kim.
add to, I just want to add to that, Kent, too. So what they did recently do was they are now offering $20,000.
Yep.
As a bonus entry into the force, into QPS, because they cannot get the numbers.
Now that's is that if you're a straight recruit, or if you come from a different police service?
I think if you come from a different police service.
Yeah.
But it's ironic because they have still a lot of good officers who love their job, who do really well with their job, that are still stood down because of this, and they will not reinstate them.
Well, Kim, do you want a little bit of inside info that I got given today? Okay, so you know that there is a class action against the QPS from officers, hundreds and thousands of officers who have been stood down, etc. So today, Kim, they were contacted, particularly the ringleaders were contacted. It might not be today, it's in the last few days. They've been contacted and said, if you will stop this class action, we will invite you all back. You can come back to your regular jobs without a loss of pay.
I hope they said no. I hope they're still going to fight it.
They said no to a person and said, you can absolutely jam it. We are coming for you.
Right.
Now,
Is
what
that
said
the
to them.
same for you, Kim? Are you joining that, or are you starting your own action against these people after what they've done to you?
No, I'm unable to join that. But yes, I am. This isn't the end for them. The difference is, though, is now it's on my terms. Now I don't have to stay. One of the reasons why I haven't come forth with this information before is for the simple fact that I wanted them to sack me. I needed them to let me go. Many times throughout this journey, my boss has indicated to me that they need my position. They need more staff on the ground. They need to hold a position. All of us do hold a position, and they can't employ anybody for that position while we are stood down. Every single time my response was, I didn't do this. I'm not going anywhere. Period. That's it.
Yeah.
So I needed them to sack me or to terminate me from that perspective, so that then I can take further action, and I am.
For unlawful dismissal.
For unlawful dismissal. Now, I've got an option to go to the QARC court in the first 21 days after this termination. I know for a fact, having witnessed it, having been in that courtroom, that they are as corrupt as all corrupt, and that won't go anywhere. So I'm looking now at other avenues, but this time it's on my terms, not theirs. This time I'm not having to fight against them in the way that it has been. So yes, it's not.
Just a little word of encouragement there from Susie, Kim. It was so good to hear you, and thank the QPS for igniting your fire, Kim. You certainly are an inspiration.
Oh, thanks so much, Susie. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, so I think there's still a lot of officers, there's still a lot of QFES, fireys, AMBOs, who are still going through this. So if you do hear of anyone, then just give them your support, because as you know, a lot of people have been through this journey in one way or another through their employment. And it's tough. It's really tough. And I think I also really want to just send a message out to the current serving officers who are there, who are still serving. A lot of people got suckered into this, not just in the QPS, but all around the world. The media campaign that they did was absolutely relentless, along with all of the things that came with that. So, it's any wonder that more people couldn't resist it because of absolute onslaught on all senses. Some of them were just worried they were going to lose their job. Some of them couldn't pay the mortgage or whatever, you know, same old story that we've heard 1,000 times before. So what I want to say to them is this: you didn't stand up. You deceived yourself. You didn't stay true to yourself through this whole journey. Many of you have suffered. Many of you have suffered injury. Some of you have suffered death. Some of you have had death from loved ones or injury from loved ones. But you were the one that made that conscious decision to just obey. You didn't investigate. Now, there is a lot of legislation that is being passed in all different parliaments around the country at the moment as we speak, which is really limiting our freedoms even more. Our freedom of speech, our freedom to protect our children, our freedom to move, to think, to do all of these, a freedom to wear a tattoo of our own desire. The legislation that's going in Queensland at the moment, if that offends somebody, you can be jailed for up to, I think, 6 months, maybe 3 years, between 6 months and 3 years. So my message to the QPS officers now is, when these things come across your desk, when you get the direction from your supervisor, when you get the direction from the cop to carry out these instructions that are a direct impact, have a direct impact on our basic human rights and freedoms, you really need to think about what you're going to do, because we're not the only one that's affected. This affects you as well. You also come under the same laws. You are not exempt from them. So you didn't do this in this last 3 years. You didn't stand up. You didn't stand up for your family or your friends. So what is it going to take for you to get that moral compass back in your heart and start saying no to the tyranny, the higher levels of tyranny that are being instigated right now? Mm. And I hope that that message gets out there to a lot more QPS people so that they can really start to think about this and process it. Do your research. Don't just go blindly thinking that the government would never, ever do this to us, because we know that's not the case. It's been proven, and they are getting worse. Yeah. So stand strong in you.
Yeah. And I would extend that also, Kim, not just to those in the QPS, to every police state in Australia, that they start to get a conscience and start to realise what they've done and what they're doing.
Yeah. So Tinsy just said, and thanks for this, it's the maximum sentence for something that is offensive that you wear on your body. If somebody takes offence to that, goes from 6 months to 3 years. It's a big difference.
I would say stop looking at my body if it offends you. Sorry, Gary.
Yeah, life's littered with adversities, and you've just explained one very great adversity tonight, and often the universe will throw up opportunities at the same time or around the same time. And I can see that the opportunity that came to you was that you could devote your time to the Australia Project, getting the Birri Nation up and running, and a whole lot more stuff that we don't even know that you're doing. I know outside of, the Australia Project, you're doing other things with teen and so on. So, do you see it in any way that that opportunity has now enlightened you and given you a focus away from all that drama and trauma that you had back in the background? So you've achieved a hell of a lot for us to follow in that process. Is that a fair comment?
100%, Gary. And I've said this right from the start, actually. It is the one thing that I'm most grateful for throughout this whole process is that when all of this started, many of you know that my family has actually been involved in fighting against this for many, many years, since the 80s, 90s and 2000s. My dad was heavily involved on an international level. So I've been aware that this has been coming for a very, very long time. And obviously this was the catalyst. So I am forever grateful that I got to witness this firsthand. What it feels like to be for someone to try, and I say try, to manipulate you. So I'm very grateful for the experience. I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to have this time to really find what my true calling is, because this is it. What path we are on now, service to others, that's what my calling is. And I know that what we're involved with, what we're doing, where we're moving forward with all of this, took a long time to get here, but this process with QPS has also given me the opportunity to discover that. So yes, Gary, you are 100% right. And I look at, you can't focus on the negative. You can't dwell in that space of bitterness, because that will eat you up and destroy you. You have to actually work with yourself and start to change your focus on, okay, this has happened and it's a traumatic event for everybody that goes through it. But how can I use that experience to help others now? How can we actually use that individually and collectively to uplift other people, to implement things which gives the betterment for humanity or those around you, which then you just never know how far your ripples go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Kim, I just want to also reiterate, I mean, because the comments that are coming through are lovely, and I know it's from one of your lovely co-workers, one of our other TAP satellite admins who's doing some amazing work as well, that team. Kim, I just want to reiterate from team that you have not wasted 1 minute of the time that since you've been stood down. And of course, we are all eternally grateful. Teams and everyone around here in Mackay, us at TAP, everyone is eternally grateful. All the ladies at Birragubba I know are eternally grateful. And she said she thanks God for your integrity.
Thank you, team. That's so beautiful. Thank you.
I love it how our TAP admins are so supportive of each other and all the things that we are achieving in there. It's really beautiful to see.
It is. And I think
Kim,
that,
a lot of,
sorry, Gary.
you go.
And there's
There's
one
a lot
other
of people around me that echo the same sentiments that you have just echoed, that we're in it for a reason, the main reason, the one reason, and the focus is we need to do exactly that, and we're going to stay the course and make it happen.
Yeah,
we do. And I just want to mention one other thing, which is really important, and what this whole journey has shown, not just me, but many, many others, and that's support and love for each other. When you have a supportive community, when you have supportive and very, very dear friends, family, and your wider community, when you have that, there is always times that each of us go through ups and downs. When you have those people around you to support you through all of that, the ups and the downs, life is so much easier. And it's one of the things that I know myself and many, many others are grateful for this whole last 3 years, is that it really has given us the opportunity to find our family, find our extended family in our friends and our community and our loved ones and those that we work with, the wider group, because it's brought so many of us more together. And really, when you have a look at this whole journey, this has just accelerated the need for us to go within and deal with all of these things that we have gone through, that perhaps we may not have gotten to this point that we're at right now for another 50 years if this hadn't happened. So we've all learned so much about ourselves, and we've all learned so much about each other, and we've all learned so much about what's happening out there and what we can do to actually change it. So yeah, I just want to say, keep on giving that support. Keep on being there for your friends, for your families. Keep on being the people that you are, that this journey has brought you to be, and keep on growing from that. And that is the most important thing. Yeah.
We are coming to the end of our time, guys. Is there any last quick words of wisdom that you'd like to leave? Very short, please, because we are about to close off. So is there any last words of wisdom that Gary or Ken would like to share?
You go first if you want, Gary.
Yeah, Kim, I just want to thank you for setting a good example. And every time we see you, you look so calm and relaxed, and a bit like Lance in a way, but a different way. You're actually calm. He just looks relaxed. And yeah, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for projecting that persona, but having the courage, the fortitude, and the strength. And we can all draw on that. And it's a great power. And we're learning to master that ourselves. So thank you.
Yeah. Any last
I would
words,
like-
short words from you, Ken?
Yep, I would like to say the leaders of our country, our state, are making a lot of money out of this. But the advice from the scriptures is to lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. And want people to think about this. Ainsley, Gary, Kim, my friendship with you three will go on after this earth life. I believe that. And it is a great treasure to me to have your friendship here in this life, as well as knowing that I'm going to have association with you afterwards as well. I'm so proud to be part of this work. Kim, you're a magnificent leader, and it's wonderful to be part of the team, guys.
Fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our time, and I want to thank Gary as well. This is his very first Triple Tap. So you did an outstanding job today, Gary. So thank you very much for stepping in for Lance, who's out and about doing some very important work. So we say hi to Lance if you are watching us. And thank you, Gary, for stepping in. Thank you, as always, Kent. You're always a great co-host there. Kim, want to thank you for being part of the team, as well as being our guest this evening and sharing your story. It certainly can't have been easy. And of course, you know, you have our support going forward with whatever you decide to do, taking this further and getting the justice that you deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank each and every one of you, as always, for joining us on another exciting episode of Triple Tap. And I love what Jody has just put in the chat there, that our friends are the family that we choose for ourselves. So on that note, I'd like to thank you all, and we'll see you next time on Triple Tap. Bye for now.
Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.